Namaste, welcome back to Power System 1 course. In the previous videos, we have discussed about the generation. Okay, what is the contribution of state sector and central sector and private sector in the total generation capacity. And in this learning dialogue video, I'm going to continue with the generation part. Okay, now if you look at the generation installed capacity of renewable energy sources, okay, the contribution of renewable energy sources into the overall installed capacity, we have seen the contribution is around some 23% in the overall installation. Okay, out of that, if you consider the different renewable energy sources, the contribution of solar power is 40%. At the same time, if you look at this wind power, it is also uh, more than the solar power right now. Okay, it is 43.2%. And if you look at this wind power across the world, India ranks fourth in the world in terms of installed capacity of wind turbine power plants. Okay, this is one more achievement what we have in Indian power scenario. Okay, so ours is the fourth largest wind power plants that are installed in India across the world. Okay, so almost most of the renewable energy sources we are getting from solar as well as wind power. In future, there is a chance for increase in the solar power because we are targeting for 100 gigawatts of addition by 2022. Okay. Similarly, 60 gigawatts of addition in wind power by 2022. Okay. And then here you can see a small portion of 5.4% of contribution from the small hydel power plants. These are not large hydel power plants. These are for small hydel power plants, especially in northeastern region. We have some small hydel plants. Okay, the contribution is 5.4% in that renewable energy sources. And from bio, we have 11.5%. Okay, we need to increase this. We need to concentrate on this bio power also. Usually, we need to improve on this bio power also. Okay, so then if you see the capacity additions over the different 5-year plans. Okay, so in the 5-year plan, that is, if you look at from 8th to 10th plan, that is 8, 9, 10, and that means it's 15 years of duration. During this 15 years of duration, the cumulative addition is 56 gigawatts. During those 5-year plans, it is 56 gigawatts of power that we have added to the generation. And then if you look at the 11th 5-year plan, that is from 2007 to 2012, we added almost the same amount, that is 53 gigawatts of power to the installed capacity when compared to the previous 3 5-year plans. Okay, the growth is exponential, you can say. Okay, and similarly for the 12th plan, we have put the target of 75 gigawatts of addition to the 12th plan. Okay, in the next slides, we are going to see how much that we have achieved out of this 75 gigawatts. Okay, so if you see the targets and achievements, here we have a program that is representing the targets and achievements that we have. In the first plan, that is 1300, we have started a journey at the time of independence. At the time of independence, we have started with 1362 megawatts. Okay, at the time it is achieved only 1100 we have achieved, and then in the second plan it is 3500 megawatts. All these are megawatts. Okay, then we have achieved only 2250 megawatts. Likewise, if you look at the targets and the achievement, always there is a gap between the target and the achievement. You can never achieve the targets until 11th plan. Okay, so if you look at this 11th plan, the target we have put it is 78 gigawatts, whereas we have achieved only 54 gigawatts of addition in the power generation. But the scenario got changed when it comes to the 12th plan, that is from during 2012 and 17, the scenario got changed and we have achieved 99 gigawatts of addition when compared to the target is only 75 gigawatts, but we have achieved 90, we have added 99 gigawatts of power to the installed capacity. Okay, and that is possible only because of the participation of this private sector. Okay, there is a lot of participation from the private sector, and we could able to achieve up to 99 gigawatts in the 12th plan. Okay, so if you look at the contributions during this 12th plan up to 2017, the central share is 20%. That is, they had 20 gigawatts of power, and state share is 23%, and private sector it is 56%. Okay. Similarly, if you look at the type wise, again the major contribution is from coal only. This we need to change. But keeping the demand and the economic growth of the country, we are unable to reduce the contribution from the coal. But in future, the scenario is going to change. The contribution from the fossil fuels is going to reduce one only by increasing the generation from the renewable energy sources, which is located over here. Okay, so right now in the 12th plan, the contribution from the thermal power plants is almost it is 84%. 84%. Okay, and whereas from the nuclear it is only 2%, and from gas it is 7%, and from the hydel it is 5.5%, and the rest of the contribution is from renewable energy sources. Whatever that you can see in the green, that is from renewable energy sources. Okay, still we need to expand this part of the pie, and we need to increase and we need to reduce this part of the pie. Okay, so this is the contributions from different resources in the 12th plan. Okay, this is the capacity target and the achievement during different plans, which I already shown. So this is the percentage of achievement is only here. It is only 53%. Okay, in the 8th plan, we have achieved only 53%. And when it comes to the 9th plan, it got reduced. It is 47%, and again it's slightly increased in the 10th plan. We have achieved up to 15%, 51%, and in the 11th plan we have achieved 70%. And if you look at this 12th plan, this is the major contribution, that is we have achieved more than the target, that is 112% we have achieved. So this you can see over here. This is how the target and achievements during this 5-year plans. Okay, this is the 8th plan, and then in the 9th plan, and then in the 10th plan. And if you look at this 12th plan, this red bar is actually higher than this blue bar. Okay, so we have achieved more than the target. Okay, actual target is we have raised from 75 to 88. Even then we have achieved 99 gigawatts of energy that we have added in the 12th 5-year plan. Okay, so now another important thing what you need to look at in the generation scenario is how much is the gap between the generation and the demand. Okay, whatever that you can see here in plus quantities are surplus, and for minus quantities we are saying it is deficient. So if you look at the demand versus supply, okay, always there is a deficit. Okay, even if you look at the statistics from 2009 to 2021, this financial year, so always there is a deficit. Okay, we need to we have not become a surplus. Okay, so but one thing which you can appreciate here it is, if you see the deficit, okay, in the 2009-10 it is up to 10% is the gap between your supply and demand in terms of energy. Okay, all these are given in million units. So here the percentage is given. The percentage of gap between the generation and the demand is 10% in 2009-10, and then if you look at over the period of time, we have started reducing the gap between the supply and demand. Okay, now in the present scenario, it is only 0.5% is the gap between the supply and the demand. Okay, there are several factors. Again, as I already told, it may be declination in the development or growth, economical growth of the country, or you can say the increase in the generation capacity. Okay, all these factors will contribute to this reduction in the gap between your supply and demand. Okay, this is about supply and demand, and you have one more statistics which you can see over here. It is regarding the uh, gap between the peak demand and the peak generation. That in terms of peak demand and peak generation, we used to have 12% gap between generation and demand in 2009 and 10. And now again, if you look at 2020 and 21, it got reduced to zero point 0.4. Okay, it's only zero point 0.4 deficit. Again, it's deficit. We have not yet become surplus. The same statistics you can also see over here. Okay, in 2009-10, we are around 10% in terms of supply and demand, and 12% in terms of the peak demand, the gap between the peak demand and the supply. Okay, so slowly, as for a period of time, we have brought it to a value of zero point 0.4 in terms of peak demand and 0.5 in terms of supply and demand in terms of energy. Okay, so this is the achievement what this is what we have achieved over a period of this almost 10 years, you can say. Okay, it's from 910 to 2010 21. Okay, over a period of 10 years we have reduced this gap from 10% to the 0.5%. Okay, in future obviously we need to target for the surplus. Okay, we have few states which are surplus even now, but the problem is we are unable to tap those resources properly. Okay, so we need to improve on the structure of the power system also. Like we need to invest more on the transmission and distribution sector also. Okay, so that will you need to plan for the future. Okay, not only you need to invest in the generation, you need to encourage the private people to enter into the transmission and distribution also, which is very less right now. We need to improve the contributions, the participation from the private sector in transmission and distribution. Then you can tap the powers from various locations in the country to the power starving places in the country. Okay. So, I have already discussed about this important factor, that is per capita consumption. You can see the trends of this per capita consumption over a period of 2005 to 2018. We have the statistics up to 18. So you can see the growth. It has increased from 631 kilowatt hours per year per person. Okay, to crossed 1000 in something around 2014-15. We have crossed 1000 mark, and then now in 2017-18, at 2017-18 it is 1149. Okay, this is one more important index that you need to be taken care. That's going to decide whether the country is developed or underdeveloped or developing. Okay, so for developing countries it's almost more than 1000. Okay, for developed countries more than 3000. Okay, so this is the achievement what we have done during this period of almost again it's nearly 15 years. Okay, so this is about the power generation scenario in India. We are going to continue with this in the next video. Okay, thank you very much.